Hello and welcome to the differential reinforcement video. And in this video, we will be going over DRIs and DRLs. DRIs are differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior, and DRL is for low rates of behaviors. And then at the end, we will be going over some examples for each of these. Some important things that we should go over before we actually dive on in is that you must know the actual reinforcement to the organism. You cannot start guessing what it is because it wouldn't work very well. And then you have to know what you're trying to do with the behavior, right? If you're trying to increase, sustain, or decrease, it depends on what you're trying to do with the behavior, because depending on what you're trying to do, you might have to pick a different DRA. You have to know does the behavior that you're trying to get already occur, because in some cases, it can be a behavior that is foreign to the organism. And you have to know if you have access to the reinforcer and what is the desired behavior and what is the undesired behavior. And then you can go on and do your DRAs, DRIs, DRLs, DROs, and all that jazz. So for incompatible behavior, this is a variation of DRA. And like the name says, this is when you cancel out the undesired behavior with another behavior that can't happen at the same time. So this is more of a replacement tactic, and we will show you how it actually works. So in this example, we have a teacher and she is trying to get her students to stop talking using DRI, which is incompatible behavior. So there are many things she can do, like making them put a bubble in their mouth, because you can't have a bubble in your mouth and talk. You can make them eat something, because if you're eating, you can't really talk, or it's harder to talk. Or you can make them whisper, because whisper and talking cannot happen at the same time. And for low rates of behavior, we typically see this when there's a behavior that we want, but it's occurring too much, right? And there are two main variations of DRL. There's a full session, and this is when you mark a certain amount of responses in a full-time session. So like, say in a session of a class period, they can only do it so many times. Or in a session of a school day, they can do it so many times. So like, going to the bathroom can be a behavior that you are seeing that's occurring too much, and you want lower rates of the behavior. So you can set how many times a child can go to the bathroom in a school day. Or there is spaced responding, and there must be a certain amount of time that happens between the responses before reinforcement is delivered. So for the example of our bathroom, let's say that a child can go to the bathroom once in every 3 hours, right? And there's a final and third variation, and this is called interval. And this is when a full session is split into segments, and then there's a set amount of responses in that allotted time. So for our bathroom thing, we can split the segments into class periods and say that the child can go to the bathroom 2 times in every class period. So some steps into implementing DRL is you have to first determine if it's the right method to use, because there are, of course, a lot of other types of methods that you can use. And you have to determine the acceptable level that you want. So you have to know which amount you want for the behavior to be at, and which type of DRL you want to do: full session, spaced response, or even interval. And then, of course, you have to inform the client of the procedure so they know what rules they have to follow, because if you're implementing and not letting the person know, How would they know what is good and what is bad? And then once they engage in this type of procedure, you have to give them feedback on how they are doing. So an example that we can do for DRL is say that Borg is a babysitter and they're babysitting their friend's kid, and the kid is constantly asking for a snack. And he thinks that giving a snack to the child is fine, but they're asking too frequently, and they want to use DRL. They can choose a full session in which the kid can only have a snack 3 times in the whole entire time period until their parents come back to work. They can do spaced responding and tell the kid that they can only have 1 snack for every 2 hours. He can set up a timer, or he can split the babysitting into intervals and tell the kid that they can only have 2 snacks in every 4 hours. And here we will be going over some questions and see if you know which one to use in the situation. So Perry is working at a doggy daycare, and she's trying to figure out what is the best way to stop all the dogs from barking all the time. Which one would you use, DRI or DRL? Personally, I would think that DRI would be the best way for dogs, because you can't really tell dogs like they have to bark a certain time, or they can only bark a certain amount of time in the daycare time. So DRI would be best because you can find another activity or behavior that the dogs can engage in rather than barking. So for the second one, we got Dahlia, and she is working out with her significant other, and they are constantly asking them for a water break. Which one would you use, DRI or DRL? I think DRL is the best one for this situation because they are engaging in a behavior that is good, but they're asking to constantly, and Dahlia just wants to lessen their behavior overall. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much for watching.